Thank you for listening. A list of content warnings can be found in the episode description. Take care. Enjoy the show. Planescape Torment, the Unofficial audio series. A narrative let's play adapted and produced by RevocerGM. Combining in-game audio with additional voice acting through dialogue and descriptions to improve your listening experience. Rediscover the amazing story of the 1999 cult classic isometric video game, Planescape Torment, like you've never heard before. You look upon the arm you had found in the waste under the trap crypt, and are immediately validated in your compulsion to bring the thing with you. You see now, under the flickering warmth of torchlight, faded with age and scarification, the symbol of torment. You can almost feel its cruel edge biting into your own skin. Are you ready? Yeah, thanks. Just needed a minute. Neither Dakon nor Anna pry too much into what had happened within that tomb, but you do show them the decanter and describe how you had left Gris resting in the sarcophagus.
That old bully. You know why they call him the Vulture, don't you? It was because that Egypt's got such a large beak on him. His nose was always walking a few feet ahead.
Right. Well, whatever he was like, he can rest at peace now. Come on. Let's see to this talking stone and get the hells out of here. You come upon the corridor of carven faces once again, and the visage of Glyve shifts to speak to you.
Have you found the flask of which I spoke?
Yes.
You have it. Pour some of its water across my lips, and I shall tell you what I promised.
Here you go. The mouthful of clear water from the flask trickles across the stone lips, and despite the minute amount, begins diluting the filthy flow that spews from the holes. As you watch, the ditch's water slowly dissipates entirely, the dirty taint of it replaced by clear, fresh water. Glyve groans in ecstasy.
Thank you, Lost One. Seek out the woman called Namel. She resides in the clerk's ward in Upper Sigil. I know not where exactly. Best of luck in your quest, immortal.
Thanks, Glyve. I had a few more questions. The voice seems to fade as it speaks to you until it falls silent. A trickle of water runs from the corner of its eye, and the grimace carved into the face has loosened. Very well, then. For the next few hours, Anna guides you in relative silence towards the buried village. You are almost eager to see the great cavern lit red by its burning trash fires. But as you come upon it, there is a change in the atmosphere. A hostility and panic hums about the place as bands of Farad's goons troop about, armed far less casually than you'd seen before. Villagers huddle in anxiety, provoked out of their usual hooch haze. Some are even dousing campfires and packing their meager possessions onto carts in preparation to leave. You head to the iron block archway that marks Ilwind Court, and as you enter, you see Bish frantically rummaging through chests and drawers. Your shadow looms over him as you stand in the entrance, and he snaps his head to you, eyes wide with fear.
Stay out of here, Burke, and you'll not be harmed.
What are you so afraid of?
Oh, it's you. I was just making sure you were not one of them creatures what tall.
He stops himself as he glances over your shoulder.
Anna? That you? Creatures? What you about, Bish? Anna. He's what? Bish! You tell me what's going on, right now! There was nothing we could do, Anna.
Like a shot, Anna darts to the trapdoor and dashes down the staircase.
What's going on? What creatures? Aye. They were creatures of night and darkness. Creatures of non-light that swept their cold way through here and disappeared down into Farad's court. If I hadn't seen them with my own eyes, I would have sworn it was some mischief. In fact, some of the lads had a mind to suspect it were you.
Farad's dead.
Aye. Now go on, you'd best get down to it. We hadn't the heart to move the body just yet, see? The echoes of the screams still linger, it seems.
There is indeed an eerie chill in the air as you descend into Ilwind Court, and the strange acoustics reverberate the sounds about you like some echoing ghost.
Dad, what happened? Who did this to you?
Farad's body lies bent on the ground, curled back and frozen in spasm. His mouth stretched open, eyes fixed in terror. His skin, though, while pale, is no more harmed than the dry, craggy folds of before.
No.
Dakon takes Anna aside as you tend to Farad's body, closing his eyes and gently laying him in a less distressing pose. For all his fury and gall, now at rest, free from the years of knotted tension, you see the noble dignity of his face, his proud forehead rising like chalky cliffs from the rocky shore of his jawline, and his brow relaxed, creased and careworn, no longer furrowed with lengthy machinations. Not at all the spiteful, anger-fueled man who'd wrung out every advantage over you. His crutch, however, is less dignified. A rickety wooden staff with a crosspiece nailed into the top and covered with rags, presumably to stop the damn thing from jamming into his armpit. Not surprisingly, it smells terrible and is covered in grimy stains. You rest it at his side and take up the bronze sphere that he must have been holding as he fell. He went through so much for this. As did you, of course. But what for you were a few grueling days were decades for him. Yet it still baffles you what it is, or indeed is for. It occurs to you, when learning the art with Mebeth, the first incantation she showed you was for identifying an enchantment held within an item. You carefully scribe the runes as you recall them, and as you do, a shimmer of light fills your vision as though filtered through tinted glass. Every edge and object around you takes on an outline as though sharpened with detailing ink. Rivers of thought race through your mind as you process the most mundane aspects of flagstones, the cloth on Farad's body, the location you were in. You look to the sphere, focusing your intent upon it. But as you try to comprehend its nature, your head begins to ache and your eyes blur and dull. It's as if it were rejecting your scrutiny. You cannot fathom this artifact. Letting your eyes settle, they fall upon Farad's stick once again. Despite appearances, it must hold some magical value, as its outline glows, and you find that not only is it enchanted with some offensive enhancements, it also appears to be the key to some portal.
I thought maybe you'd want to keep this. You take me for a hoarder like him? He loved his keepsakes, he did.
Anna stands above Farad now, staring past his face, it seems, into some knotted ball of memories.
Are you all right? Aye? You don't have to accompany me anymore, Anna. You've done what you said you'd do, and I thank you for that. If you need to stay with the buried village, then...
I don't need to be in the village. And I was wondering what I'd do if Farad got penned in the dead book I was. Oh well. He's probably mounting someone's wall in the hills, he is.
But he's your father. Don't you
Not
need...
my real dad. He wasn't.
Her eyes take on a hard look.
He was greedy. And he was selfish. And he was weak.
She frowns.
And now he's dead. And that's all.
All right. Well, needless to say...
Needless to say what?
Anna, would you like... Will you join me? I don't know where I'm going next, and I don't know what there'll be to face.
Stop talking. You say too much sometimes, you know. Aye, I'll join you.
Right. Oh, good.
So, what's next?
I just said I don't know.
I'm kidding. Pops, how'd you get anything done with this one? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to rinse this place for whatever we find. Then I'm going to take him to the Dusties and wring the last bit of junk from his corpse. And don't give me that look, it's what he would have wanted. Alright?
Oh, all right. Where do we start?
Well, I know he's never left his hall to get his tribute when he needed it.
He wouldn't want to walk far with that lame leg of his.
Aye, that's true. But only if you don't watch him careful. He isn't lame, though he puts on a fair show about being weak in the leg.
So, this crutch of his could be the portal key to his hoard?
Anna frowns in thought for a moment, slowly nods her head, then takes the crutch from your hand. At first, you are entirely confused by what she's doing as she starts hobbling about, pantomiming Farad's movements, doddering and cursing, rapping the stick upon the flagstones. Then you see, in her recreation of the old man's habits, she has found herself standing beneath an archbeam, and both it and the crutch begin to glow.
This is it!
Anna touches the crutch upon the archway, and a shimmering portal stretches out beneath. Within, you find yourself in a vast warehouse. Tiers of structures climb up, forming platforms and mezzanines, the beams of which look centuries old, but hard as stone and clad with creeping razorvine. Something that seems to have once been a gallows frame now holds a large array of arcane lanterns that softly glow a warm yellow, illuminating the entire space. The musty scent of old books and leather polish fills the place. But despite the quantity of goods held here, it is remarkably well kept. Great alcoves of bookshelves are satisfyingly indexed and ordered by alphabet, date, or topic. There are so many books here, it would rival any library or place of learning. And you wonder why Farad felt the need to keep them all hidden and out of reach. There are other items too. Great bins and storage chests filled with various knickknacks, apparently not good enough, or perhaps too secret to be displayed in the court. And even a small kitchenette, complete with a fire stove, kettle, and basin. On a side table, you see a silver platter with a full wheel of cheese and a label marked "For Guests."
I wouldn't touch it if I were you. Farad scarcely kept any company and never attempted to host. Laced with poison, that is, make no mistake.
Good to know.
You spend a little time sorting through any choice items, finding a few interesting spells, some balms and ointments for healing or disinfecting wounds, and a segmented earring made of the crystallized body of some larva that Anna takes for herself. You had hoped to find more information on your past, but searching every document or note scrap in this place would be a gargantuan task, and you have no reason not to believe Farad's admission of ignorance beyond what he'd already told you. And so, with just a little ceremony, you help Anna place Farad's covered body onto a cart and leave the buried village behind, uncertain how it will fare now free from the boot of its former tyrant. Anna chooses to go to the mortuary alone, relishing the idea of turning up to the gates herself with none other than the most infamous collector boss there is, and agrees to meet you at the Gathering Dust when she's done. It's been a short while, but you hadn't forgotten that you'd agreed to report to Emmerich there, both on Farad's scheme, but on Swago as well. Evening begins to draw in, and the pinkish light that bleeds throughout Sigil just before darkfall is quite pleasing in the square as it gleams, jewel-like over the morning stone. And you make your way into the Dustman Bar. A few familiar faces are dotted about in various booths, including Mortai, who catches your eye as he looks up from reading over some lengthy scroll.
Ah, you again. Have you come to make me surrender more contracts in the name of the Dustman faction? Well, no matter. The past is past. What is it I may do for you?
I'm just here to see Emmerich.
Mortai studies you, slightly worried.
What is your business with him, may I ask? Perhaps I may help you instead.
Relax, Mordai. I'm not here to sign a contract.
But good sir, why not? It's nothing but a mere piece of parchment. I'd be willing to offer even more than the usual recompense.
How much?
I will offer 75, 100 coppers, sir. Much, much more than any other dustman will offer.
You know what? Fine. I'll sign with you.
Oh, excellent! Excellent!
Mortai looks overjoyed. With a thin smile, he places a dusty sheet of parchment and a quill pen in front of you.
You shall not regret it. Sign here, here, and here, and our transaction is concluded.
You know, you show much more emotion than the other dustmen I've met.
I trust you meant no offense, sir.
I meant no offense, but you seem awfully eager to sign this contract with me. And for a dustman, eagerness strikes me as odd.
Eager? Sir, do you wish to sign the contract or not? If not...
Is that a problem for you?
Oh my, yes. Too much passion, too much emotion prevents one from reaching the true death. To be passionate runs contrary to the philosophy of our faction.
Right. Look, it's fine. I'll sign.
You take the quill in your hand and begin to scratch your signature. The quill pen makes a strange scritching noise, like a dagger writing on steel. And you notice the parchment seems to be shifting beneath it. No matter how hard you try, you can't seem to sign your name. The contract seems to twist from being a dusty piece of parchment to something alive.
Mordai, what's with this contract?
When you glance up to speak to Mortai, you see that his face has been replaced with that of a grinning skull. The rest of the bar seems to stop, the patrons falling silent, freezing like statues. Mortai opens his mouth, and a wisp of dust trails from inside the skull.
Mordai.
With a rasp, the death's head speaks, dust streaming from its teeth.
Sign. But remember, everything has its price. And what can change the nature of a man?
Nature of a man.
As you speak the words, suddenly you feel faint. Then the next thing you hear is Mortai's voice, normal, and his hand upon your shoulder.
Sir, are you all right?
He laughs uneasily.
I thought I'd lost you for a moment.
It is as if time has exhaled and resumed its natural breathing. The rest of the bar has returned to normal, and Mortai's face is no longer a death's head. You feel a strange pressure inside your skull, as if something desperately wishes to surface but cannot. The experience with the death's head that spoke dust, it was as if you had remembered a dozen splinters of memory all at once, all stabbing into each other to create an image. And you know, somehow, that every voice the death's head spoke belonged to someone now long dead.
Just give me a moment. I'll be fine.
Mortai removes his hand from your shoulder. He looks uneasy, more at the prospect of losing a customer than any concern for your welfare. As you stare at the dusty parchment upon the table, you know for a fact that this is not the first time you have penned your name to a contract, and perhaps not the first time you have signed one such as this.
Actually, Mortai, I think I'll hold off before signing this. Forgive me.
Oh, wait, no, sir, wait. Oh, blast.
You approach Emmerich, and immediately he locks you with his stony gaze and gestures for you to sit. There is a silence for a moment as he waits.
I spoke to Farad and found out where he was getting the bodies he brings to you.
Where do the bodies he brings us come from?
They come from the catacombs beneath Sigil. He was taking the bodies long buried there and selling them back to you. If any are buried there again, he just dug them up and sold them right back.
Emmerich stares at you, and you are suddenly struck with the feeling that his eyes are burrowing into your skull. After a moment, he nods.
You have done a service for the Dustman, but there is something you are not telling me. I can sense it.
Farad's dead. His body is being taken right now to the mortuary. He died sometime after I left him.
I will not feign any regret for that man's departure. His presence was a stain upon the dignity of the dead. May his soul find rest beyond the eternal boundary.
He removes his hands from his sleeves, then lets them drape across the table like a curtain. When he pulls them back, a small lapis lazuli coffin lies upon it. A tiny thing, barely 2 inches wide and 3 inches long. The Dustman's symbol is engraved upon the lid. As you pick up the coffin, it chirrups, unfolds, and then dissolves into a stream of hundreds of copper pieces, which you somehow manage to keep from spilling across the floor of the bar.
Thanks. I also found Swago.
I would know his whereabouts.
I found him in the catacombs beneath Sigil. He also died there.
Emmerich's face is expressionless, and you cannot tell if there is remorse or not.
Why was he there?
He discovered a group of undead guardians who were protecting the catacombs. He was trying to convince them to join the True Death.
Very well. You found him. You have done all the tasks that I have asked of you. I will make you a Dustman, an initiate of the Fifth Circle. Do you still wish to be a member of the faction?
Yes.
Was that a truth or a lie? You honestly could not say. But to close this circle and reach the True Death...
Your initiation requires a promise.
A promise?
You must promise to serve the Dustman. You must promise that you have left life behind. You must promise that your goal is to reach the True Death.
First, I had some questions.
You may ask your questions.
I spent days in the catacombs amongst the living dead. I've seen them here and in the mausoleum. Some mentioned the Dead Truce. What is that?
The walking dead dwell among the Dustmen, work with the Dustmen. Yet, at other times, they have been the enemies of the living.
That has not escaped my notice.
The Dustmen have a truce with all the dead. The dead truce. The dead shall never harm a Dustman as long as we uphold it.
As Emmerich intones these words, that crawling sensation in the back of your skull returns. It has something to do with the dead truce, but you can't recall what it is.
I see.
Furthermore, there exist magics that prolong life or interfere with death. Such magics are an anathema to our belief. They rarely work on members of our faction. Nothing must attempt to interfere with your passage to the true death.
Very well.
Very well. Again, do you believe the tenets of the Dustman?
Yes.
I shall act as your witness. Make the promise.
I promise to serve the Dustman. I have left life behind. I seek only the true death.
You are now numbered among the dead.
You find Dakon quietly smoking in a booth at the gathering dust. The glaive set by his side shifts like wind over dunes. The circle of Zerthamon is set before him.
You have chosen to walk the path of true death. Is that wise?
I don't know. Given my standing, I can't think of anything other than bringing an end to all this.
Do not mistake my words as judgment.
I know. I guess I need to convince myself as much as anyone. I do not know myself in this. Dakon's face remains still.
Remember, not knowing something can be a tool if upon encountering it, you attempt to know its nature and how it came to be. Walk the path and learn.
You have some time waiting for Anna to return. And so, once again, you take up the stone circle, sliding the plates into the configuration Dakon had showed you.
Upon the blasted plains, Zerthamon told Gith there cannot be two skies. In the wake of his words came war. Upon the blasted plains, the people had achieved victory over their Illithid masters. They knew freedom. Yet before the green fires had died from the battlefield, Gith spoke of continuing the war. Many, still filled with the bloodlust in their hearts, agreed with her. She spoke of not merely defeating the Illithids, but destroying all Illithids across the plains. After the Illithids had been exterminated, they would bring war to all other races they encountered. In Gith's heart, fires raged. She lived in war, and in war she knew herself. All that her eyes saw, she wanted to conquer. Zerthamon spoke the beginnings of that which was against Gith's will. He spoke that the people already knew freedom. Now they should know themselves again and mend the damage that had been done to the people. Behind his words were many other hearts of the people who were weary of the war against the Illithid. Know that Gith's heart was not Zerthamon's heart on this matter. She said that the war would continue. The Illithid would be destroyed, their flesh would be no more. Then the people would claim the false worlds as their own. Gith told Zerthman that they would be under the same sky in this matter. The words were like bared steel. From Zerthman came the pronouncement of two skies. In the wake of his words came war.
You slide the plates closed and seal the circle, placing it upon the table. You realize as you do that Dakon is staring at you, and without waiting, he takes it up and says,
"What did you come to know?"
I know that Zerthaman's devotion to the people was such that he was willing to protect them from themselves. He knew the Illithids had come not to know themselves in their obsession with control and domination. So he chose to stop Gith before she carried the people to their deaths. There must be balance in all things, or else the self will not hold.
Dakon's voice slows, and his hands grip the edges of the unbroken circle.
You have seen the words and know them.
He twists it clockwise, and there is a click, as two plates slide forth. Dakon stares at the two plates in his hand. He makes no move to hand them to you.
Dakon, is that second plate for you?
Dakon remains silent. His blade has ceased shimmering, the film freezing upon its surface. He is staring at the second plate, paralyzed.
Dakon, do you know the sixth circle?
He looks up, but his coal-black eyes do not meet your gaze.
No, there is nothing more I may teach you. You know the way as the people know it, and it shall give you the direction by which you may know yourself.
That's not what I asked. Do you know the sixth circle or not?
It has come to pass that I do not know the sixth circle of Zerthamon. Once I knew it. But I know now I only saw the words.
Dakon's eyes stare through you.
That is all. It is my path that I no longer know the way of Zerthamon.
Dakon, there is one other thing I would know. Why is Vilquar's eye in the circle of Zerthamon? It seems strange. It tells of how the people benefited from a treachery from their own. It seems...
I have told you. It is part of the telling of how the people came to know freedom. Do you not listen?
His voice flattens, as if he is reciting a passage from memory.
It tells the people that even in the greatest treachery, a greater knowing may be achieved.
It doesn't sound to me like you believe that. I think there's another reason it's there. I think it's set there because of the sixth circle and the pronouncement of two skies. It's there to justify Zerthamon's treachery to the people upon the blasted plains.
Dakon's glaive bleeds into a dead black, teeth rippling along the edge.
He divided the people upon the blasted plains, Dakon. He divided your people when they were on the path of victory. I would like to believe that it was because he wished to save the people from themselves, but I don't think you believe that.
Dakon is silent for a moment. Then he speaks, slowly.
I do not know the sixth circle as it is known to others. I fear that the third circle, the fourth circle, and the sixth circle are more closely linked than many know. It is in that knowing that I have lost myself.
In the third circle, Zerthamon submerged his will to deceive the Illithids. Then in the fourth circle, it speaks of the benefits of treachery. Then, in the sixth circle, Zerthamon divides his people before they exterminate the Illithids. Do you think Zerthman's words may not have been his own?
Know my words, and know the wound that lies upon my heart. I fear that when Zerthman was upon the Pillars of Silence, he did not submerge his will. I fear his will was taken from him by the Illithids. And when he spoke upon the blasted plains, it was their words he spoke. I fear that what he did was not for the people's sake, but for our former masters.
It's possible, but no, it doesn't necessarily mean
Then
that
know this and speak of it no more.
Dakon's voice is like a knife.
Know that I shall never know the truth. There is no resolution to this matter, for I shall never know Zerthman's heart upon the blasted plains.
He glares at the stone circle in his hand.
And so, I do not know myself because of the unbroken circle of Zerthman.
You can see the physical strain Dakon is under with this. It's as if he were shackled to some inner turmoil and would rather burst from his own skin like chains.
Very well. I will speak no more of it.
Anna slinks into the bar, looking about with a grimace on her face. She sneers as one of the zombie staff stumble by her.
Why you want to be in a place like this is beyond me.
Right. Well, let's get out of here.
You lead them both through the Hive with one purpose: to see if Fel recognizes the tattoos marked on the petrified arm you'd found under the trap crypt. You are certain they are connected to you somehow, and have reason to believe it may in fact be your own arm, however incomprehensible that might seem. The sign of the white oval struck by a thunderbolt glows as you enter, and as you push through the curtain, Anna grabs you by the shoulder.
Are you daft? We'll draw the lady's gaze. If we stay here, we will.
Her arm is rigid, and her fingers dig into your skin.
Anna,
What's wrong?
are you so pig-eager to dance in the lady's shadow you'll bandy words with this one? Let's give this place the laugh before we get penned in the dead book.
What's the problem?
It's Fel. Let's be away, eh? No good will come of being here, so it won't.
She starts trembling.
No more questions. Let's give this place the laugh, eh?
Anna, no harm will come to you while I'm here. Now tell me what's wrong.
Fel's a Dabus who angered her. It said he's a Dabus who isn't a Dabus, and the time's close when the lady's gaze will fall on him, so it will.
Her? You mean the Lady of Pain?
Aye, and heed your tongue.
Anna makes a semicircle in the air in front of her as you mention the lady's name.
The Dabus work for the lady, and she protects them. Except Fel. Let's be away, aye?
Anna, I need to speak to him.
No, please, nay. No good will come of it. Anyone speaking to Fel could draw the lady's gaze. I don't even want to die. I don't.
To your surprise, Anna looks close to tears. Anna, no harm will come to you while I'm here, I promise. I just need a moment with him.
I don't even know why. Well, go on then, talk to him. I don't even care.
How about this? I'll stay here with you in the entrance. Dakon, would you mind showing this to Fel and ask him about the tattoos? Dakon nods and takes the wrapped bundle towards the Dabus before muttering a few words. Fel examines it, tracing the patterns with his finger. He then looks up, and a series of rebuses form. It's hard to see them at first from this angle, but you think you can make them out, hazy at first, then sharpening into focus.
The arm is yours. The tattoos are mine. One tattoo speaks of a time when your path was shared by 4 others.
What did he say, Dakon? Dakon studies the symbols, but he remains silent. Dakon, what is he saying?
The arm is yours. The tattoos are his.
You were certain from where you are that you'd seen more in Fel's symbols. Did he say anything more than that? Dakon hesitates for a moment, and suddenly, instinctively, you know Dakon is lying to you.
The rest of the symbols are not known to me.
Why are you lying to me? Dakon remains still. He does not turn to look at you. He seems to be staring at something leagues away.
The symbols... There is no good in knowing the answer to what you ask.
Since when has not knowing the truth of something ever really helped anyone, Dakon? The counselor who counsels ignorance betrays his station.
There is truth in your words. That truth should be known to me.
Finally, Dakon turns to you, his eyes hardened.
The symbols speak of 4 you have traveled with in the past.
You let go of Anna and approach the center of Fel's studio. Go on. What 4 are these? Fel's symbols swirl before you, and you piece them together.
One unloved, who loves one who does not love. One who does not see what others see, and sees what others do not. One who is familiar and bound with duty. One who is a slave, and his chains are words.
As you finish translating, the 4 strings seem to form themselves into links, and they merge into a chain. The chain bends until it is a symbol you recognize. Why did you not want to tell me this?
The 4 are bound with a symbol that is known to me.
What symbol? The symbol sharpens, gaining edges that are almost painful to your eyes.
It is torment. It is that which draws all tormented souls to you.
Fel nods at your left arm, at your own shoulder.
The flesh knows it suffers, even when the mind has forgotten. And so, you wear the rune always.
Dakon, tell me everything you know about the 4 on that tattoo.
I will not speak of it here. Ask when what we speak of will only be for the ears of those that walk with you.
Fine. Fel, what about the other tattoos on the arm? Fel examines it again, tracing the faded tattoos upon its surface. As he does, they each appear as a symbol above his head. The symbols are unfamiliar to you, but flashes of memory spark in your mind as Fel recounts the tales they portray. They tell of a time when you were lost and abandoned on the streets of the Hive, barely able to make a living, robbing and stealing from others you encountered. The crimes this lost incarnation committed eventually drove you to seek shelter in the Weeping Stone catacombs, where you survived for almost a year, forced to live as a shadow mite, hiding from detection by the Sigil authorities and concealing yourself from the more dangerous inhabitants of the tombs. The world beneath Sigil's streets became a second home to you. It tells of you living there in darkness and coming to learn the nature of why the stones beneath Sigil weep. You leave Fel's studio, confused and frustrated. So much has happened all at once, and it all races in your mind, along with flashes of dark, murky memory. Your companions, the people you have grown to trust, your friends, wearily follow behind. Dakon cannot seem to look from the ground in fear of making eye contact.
Right, it's time we set up camp now. Things look better in the morning.
I agree. We need to find somewhere we can be alone. Right, Dakon? He quietly nods.
I know just the place.
Anna leads you to what seems like an abandoned building off a side street. It almost certainly seems to still be just that. But when Anna draws back a cloth within, covering an old, disused chimney house, she reveals a small hidden room behind. It is a humble hovel, little more than a cot with a few blankets and cushions, but she quickly goes about lighting several lanterns, and suddenly, the place feels as warm and inviting as anywhere you've been. A sanctuary from the woes of the Hive.
This should do us all right for the night, if you don't mind sleeping on the floor.
That's fine. Thank you, Anna.
I'll pop out for a while. Leave you two to swap the chant a wee bit.
She gently closes the curtain behind her and leaves you and Dakon stood, now awkwardly in this enclosed space. All right. There are no other ears beyond our own. What do you know of the four bound by this tattoo?
The tattoo speaks of 4 minds. One was a woman who loved a man who knew her and knew not love. The other was a blind man who saw things no mortal eye could see. Another was a familiar, a mage's pet, bought and bound. And the last was a slave.
Can you tell me anything about them?
The woman was young. She worshipped time, for in her blood she knew of things to come. The archer was a blind man, and he could see things that no other one could see. The path of his arrows always led to the heart of an enemy. The familiar I know little of.
See things to come. The woman's name wasn't Dianara, was it?
No, that Dianara was the name she carried.
All right. What do you know of the archer?
I know little of him. I know he was a soldier. I know that alcohol had taken a portion of his life. In blindness, he had come to know a different sight. In knowing this, he had become strong, yet he did not know his own strength.
Do you know what his name was? Before Dakon can respond, you feel you know the answer. There is a crawling sensation in the back of your skull, and you feel the name surfacing, as if from beneath a great muddy ocean.
His name was Zachariah. He was blind, but in blindness, he had gained a second sight that allowed him to see things hidden to others.
He was an archer, and where his arrows flew, they found the hearts of their targets.
Know that Zachariah was the name he carried, and know that his name pierced the heart of many enemies.
Do you know why we were traveling together?
Know that the path was known to only you, and it was your will that we not know it. Know that those that walked your path knew only the symbol that bound them.
We. And which one of them was you? Were you the slave, Dakon? At the word slave, Dakon's face collapses in pain as if he was struck. It is as if the word was a dagger stabbing at the core of his suffering. His glaive swims in turmoil.
Know that this one owed you a service. In owing this to you, it became as slavery. Know that your will is my will. When you speak, know I must hear you. Know that your words may stay my blade or guide it to the throat of another.
What? But why? Dakon seems to look through you, as if meeting your gaze were unbearable.
Your path is my path. I am chained to you.
But why, Dakon? How did this come to be?
No, the tale is long. The matter is between me and the other that was once you. Know that if you hear it, know it shall be a long tale.
I would hear it.
Upon the roiling plain of Limbo, the people shape cities from the chaos with their thoughts. Know
that there is no place for a divided mind.
Dakon raises the blade from his shoulder and holds it before him. As he stares at it, it sharpens until it is almost as thin as a piece of paper.
A divided mind is an unfocused mind. A divided mind fractures walls and weakens stone.
As Dakon speaks, the edges of the blade corrode slightly, the metal misting and melting along the edges.
Many divided minds may destroy a city.
I understand. Go on.
Long have I known the words of Zerthamon. Through my voice, many have come to know the words of Zerthamon. The Zerth protect the community from all threats, whether to the body or the mind. They are the guiding stones in the chaos. So it came to pass that I spoke the words of Zerthamon without knowing the words of Zerthamon. It came to pass that I no longer knew myself.
So, you doubted the words?
No.
Dakon's voice is edged, and his blade sharpens in response.
I knew the words. Yet it came into my heart that perhaps others did not know the words as Zerthamon knew them. And so, division formed. As my mind became as two, as my mind became divided, those that looked to me as a guiding stone became divided. Many scores of Githzerai, many hundreds of scores of Githzerai doubted. Shrek died that day.
So, those that followed you came to doubt the words as well, and the city was weakened. And that is how Shrek fell.
The enemies of Zerthamon came. Know that their hatred of his words and the people lent their blades strength. Know that they sensed the weakened city, and they brought war with them. Many Githzerai drowned in the chaos and beneath the blades of our enemies.
Small beads of metal appear on the surface of the blade, as if it is blistering.
No, this happened long ago.
What happened to you?
As I fell from the walls of Shrek know that myself was broken. My blade was missed, my mind divided. I was adrift upon Limbo's seas, and I wished to drown. I died for days, my mind awash in division. When death finally came to me, it wore your skin, and it had your voice.
Me?
You asked that I hear you.
As Dakon says the words, your vision bleeds outwards, and the crawling sensation begins to worm its way up through the back of your skull. You feel nauseous for a moment, and your vision is suddenly as chaos, smeared, twisted, and you are someplace else, someplace in the past. Everything around you is in turmoil. Your vision is hazy, swirling, dizzying all at once. There is mist, pockets of fire, islands of mud, stone, and ice-covered rocks swimming through the plain like fish, impacting and dissolving, droplets of water arcing through the howling air and lashing your skin like teeth. You choke back your nausea and steady yourself. This is the plane of limbo. All is chaos. Nothing is stable. You focus on the dying man that lies before you. It is why you have come to this place. The man is a Githzerai, his body embedded in an earthen pocket that swirls around him. Unconsciously, he has formed a grave from the elements, and though bits of fire and water lick at his face, he does not respond. His hands are ashen, his coal-black eyes focusing on nothing. His emaciated frame speaks of starvation, but you know it is the least of his wounds. It is faith that dealt him the mortal blow. In his limp left hand is a twisted mass of metal, its surface having melted around his fingers like a gauntlet. As you watch, it steams and hisses like some diseased snake. The Githzerai does not seem to be aware of it, but it is that weapon that has brought you here.
Dakon, Zerth of Shraklor Drowning, last wielder of the Kark Blade. Know that I have come to you with the words of Zerthamon, carved not in chaos, but in stone, carved by the will in an unbroken circle.
At the word Zerthamon, Dakon's eyes roll in their sockets, and they attempt to focus upon you. With effort, he cracks his mouth to speak, but only a dry hiss emerges. You bring forth the stone from your pack and hold it before him so he can see.
Know that the words of Zerthamon inscribed upon this stone are true, and know that your divided mind need be divided no longer. All you must do is take the stone, and you shall know yourself again.
Dakon's eyes flicker over the unbroken circle of Zerthamon, and for a moment, you think he might be too close to death to recognize it. Then, the right hand twitches, and he pulls it slowly from its earthen prison, the clumps of earth streaming off it like water in Limbo's chaotic winds. His skeletal hands clutch the stone like a drowning man, and his eyes flash.
Know that I have saved your life, Dakon, Zerth of Shraklor.
Dakon's eyes turn from the stone and flicker over you, and he hisses again, too dry for a moment to muster the words. He blinks, slowly, then speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. But the words are what you wanted to hear.
My life is yours until yours is no more.
I heard your words. The chaos in my mind became still. I knew myself again. You got the circle from me. Yes. In knowing its words, I knew myself. But did it save your life, Dakon? Or did it divide you further once you'd studied the circle? Dakon is silent for a moment, but his blade writhes as if in pain. He is slow to speak again, and when he does, his voice is somber. It divided me. Then did I save your life, Dakon? Or did I only add to the pain you already felt? Those words of Zerthamon's, they only seem to divide you more. I see it when we talk over the teachings. I say that I never saved you, Dakon. I only raised you from near death so that you might die again. If you had died at Shraklor, then you would have known peace. Your words carry the weight of truth. The death I would have died at Shraklor, that would have been the last death. Every day I have lived since is a new death. Tell me about that other me. The incarnation you knew. What was he like? Dakon's gaze travels through you, and he falls silent. Dakon? Know that he was different. Know that the differences were not marked on the skin, nor in the way of the weapon, nor in the attire that cloaked him. Know that he was different in the way of thought and the means he acted upon his thoughts. His will became substance. Know that he saw others
and did not see them. He knew only how they could serve him. His heart was treacherous and it was cold, and never did its coldness burn him.
Did it ever touch you, Dakon? Did he betray you? Dakon's blade begins bleeding into a dull, flat black, and you watch as ridges like teeth begin sprouting from the edge of the blade.
It is not my will you know of this.
Tell me, Dakon, did he ever betray you?
No, there were many treacheries. Any treachery upon me was by my hand, no other.
Tell me, Dakon, what was the treachery?
I surrendered my word to him. I surrendered myself.
What are you talking about?
The people do not allow themselves to be enslaved to another in deed or chains. If we find ourselves in such a cage, we act to free ourselves, even if it means we must endure another cage for a time. You performed a great service for me. In so doing, you enslaved me. I acted to free myself. Know that I surrendered my word and myself to act in your name until your death.
But I can't die.
That was not known to this one. I surrendered my word to him. I surrendered myself. Know that there is nothing now left that I may surrender, except my life. You saved this one's life. In exchange, your life became mine. Know now that I follow you only so I might die.
Dakon, it doesn't have to be that way. I can release you. I don't wish you to be a slave. Consider the debt paid.
No.
Dakon's forehead creases in pain, and his eyes stare through you.
It is not your word that carries the weight, and your word will not free me. The word that chains me is mine. The torment is mine. I know in my heart that the chains remain. Words will not free them.
Is there any way you can be freed?
You must die a final death. Yet your path is not death's path. There is no resolution to this matter.
I swear I will find one, Dakon. I will find one that sets you free. Dakon's voice becomes ragged, as if he has suddenly become sick.
No. You have added other words to my words.
His expression is pained, and his gaze meets yours.
Now you have chained us both.
After you finish talking, exhaustion, along with the weight of the discussion, catches up, and Dakon quickly falls into a deep sleep, laying upon his bedroll on the floor of this humble den. While what was said had surfaced a great deal of his pain and torment, you do notice the tension in his brow has lessened somewhat, and his eyes appear more relaxed beneath their heavy lids. Eventually, Anna returns, peering her head through the curtain at the entrance, and seeing Dakon at peace, she steps inside.
Is he okay?
I think so. It's not exactly something to be resolved overnight. It's a lot more complicated than I'd expected.
Are you okay?
I don't know. I don't know.
Anna moves to sit next to you upon the cot, and with her arms crossed, allows her elbow to brush against yours. A small gesture, but the surprising warmth of her skin is a welcome comfort.
How'd you find this place?
Oh, growing up on the streets, you need to know where to duck your head now and then. There are a few places dotted around that I keep. Not such an issue once I sit with old Stuttercrutch. But I still like to stay out here once in a while.
How did you come to meet Farad?
He found me when I was a wee girl. He needed a collector to crawl into places the rest of his fat gullies couldn't squirm. So he took me under his crutch.
Tell me about him.
What do you want to know?
Anything. It may not have been the warmest of welcomes, but for as long as I can remember, he's been important.
As long as you remember? What, a whole week?
10 days.
Aye. Important? Well, he'd been at the village longer than I remember. Came there a stone's age ago, apparently. Maybe even found the place, some of the villagers say.
Anna frowns.
Farad's a shrewd one, he is. Has a way of squeezing more out of copper than most, and he never was at a lack for jink.
You pull the bronze sphere out of your pack, resting it on your lap. Your scarred reflection bends around its surface, warping in the soft lantern light.
I wish you wouldn't lug that thing around. Foul custard smell it has.
Do you think he was searching for it all that time?
I suppose. I don't know why he was all afire to get it, I don't. I could smell it as soon as you brought it to him.
She wrinkles her nose.
Still, it must be something right valuable for him to carry on about it like he did. More than half a score of collectors got penned in the dead book trying to fetch it.
I think he was searching for it because he thought it would save his life. She blinks.
What do you mean?
Farad didn't lead a good life. I gather he was once a governor in one of the upper wards. He apparently used his position to lie, cheat, and hurt others in the process. So much so he was destined to go to the hells when he died. He thought the bronze sphere would save him somehow. So much so he threw away his title, his wealth, and his position to try and find it.
Really?
She goes silent for a moment, then shakes her head.
No accounting for Farad's foolishness, there isn't. The trinket won't save you from fate's hand. If the stains on your soul are black enough, no amount of washing them will get them out. Still, if he thought he could save him, maybe it is important somehow. Or at least worth a bit of jink.
Maybe.
Anna drifts off to sleep, leaving you to your thoughts. With all that's happened in this last day, you are certain that sleep won't come. So, you leave your companions to rest and head out into the sigil night. The ring of city lights above is masked by a blanket of orange-stained fog. But, glowering over the jagged rooftops of the Hive, the mortuary is still clear to see, its corpse fires dancing about the spider-like domes. You wonder how it might be to return to the place where this 10-day lifespan began. You are an initiate, after all, and have every reason to explore the headquarters of the Dustman faction. Troops of grim guardians stalk the courtyard before the main gates. In the low light, it is hard to tell if they are living or dead. As you approach, they halt and turn to face you. One stern-faced guard calls out,
You! State your business.
"I am a new Dustman initiate. I'd like to tour the mortuary." There is a pause as his cold gaze levels to yours. Then he nods.
Very well. Follow me.
All right. He leads you through the entrance, and as you pass the threshold, a shiver runs down your spine. It is odd being back. Once you are walking through the marbled halls, though, you begin to relax, and what was a maze-like prison now feels, as it is, a lifeless morgue. Eerie, but not nearly as threatening as you had felt before. A quiet place of the dead.
You are welcome to walk as you please, although you may find some chambers bar your entry. Is there anything specific that you intend to see?
No, not specifically. Just finding my bearings.
Very well. The lower levels are the halls of the interred. While not freely open, some mourners are given leave to visit those who rest here. The upper floors hold the Hall of Vigils and are for preparation, cremation, and faction offices, which of course are open to you. Take care you do not disturb anyone's duties while you are here.
Thank you. Now that your focus is less on escaping the place, you can see that it truly is a remarkable structure. The numerous passages twist and revolve around a rising trunk-like column in the center, each branching off into various funerary chambers. You occasionally hear the muffled sob of some grieving mourner as you pass, and the general stink of death and embalming fluid is masked by overlapping wafts of incense and the ritual fires of tireless workers performing their final rites. You come to one corridor decorated with thousands of porcelain faces, the death masks of Sigel's wealthiest elite cast in intricate detail. You can sense the strong magic surrounding these effigies, and with just the slightest reach, a coil of teal spools like thread from your throat, ready to knot about the voices from beyond. The light settles about one of these faces, and despite the cold ceramic imitation, it is clear this was once a handsome man, cut from life at the peak of vigor. The face shudders for a moment, spirit flowing into its eyes, and it begins to gaze about with a look of curious puzzlement. Then flashes a disarmingly friendly grin.
Where am I? Such an odd place.
Your remains, at least, are in the mortuary.
Yes, that would make sense, wouldn't it? Now, do I know you?
No, at least I don't think so.
Strange. Well, perhaps you are right. What is it you wished of me?
Where are you? Where does your spirit reside now?
Arborea, a more wondrous place I could not ask for. Nowhere in my mortal life did I find a place of such great passion, such splendor. The beauty of the land, the people magnificent. I tell you truly, I miss it even now.
Where were you from in life?
I am from many places. In truth, my birthplace is unknown to me. I did a good deal of traveling in my life and called many places home. Now, all Arborea is mine to explore.
What's your name?
My name was Asonje. Might I know yours?
I do not know.
How odd. A shame, truly. I must have something to call you, no?
I do not know. Adan, I guess.
Then Adan it is, friend. Now, if you have no question for me, I ask that you release me to my peace.
Of course. Farewell. The coil of light retracts, and the face goes still. It is almost unnerving to see it so lifeless again. As you rise up the column, you leave the public areas of the mortuary and find yourself among the receiving and preparation rooms, surrounded by a familiar network of rails. The strong metallic tang stings your nostrils, and the clicks and gurgles from the machinery almost makes you gag.
What am I doing here?
With a clang, a heavy set of doors swing open, and the grinding of an approaching slab draws in, pushed by one of the shambling corpses. It reminds you of something, but you're not sure what. His eyes and lips are stitched closed, and there is a gaping hole torn in his throat. He smells foul. The zombie is awkwardly getting his voice back, and he sounds alarmed.
Who's there? Answer me.
Can you not see me?
Blind, I am. In death, as I was in life. Now answer me. Who are you?
Zachariah. The name spills out of your mouth before you can even think.
You?
The zombie seems shocked, but gladdened.
By the lady's gaze.
How?
Peel away this filthy shroud skin and see old Zachariah the fool beneath. It is I, Cutter. Oh, blessed be the powers. I thought I'd never see you again. But you've changed too, as far as my ears can tell. Have you been making poor choices again? How can you talk to me? Your voice is as clear as a knife. But you dead too, finally.
It's a long tale, but no, I'm not dead. What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm a stable hand in the most lifeless place of all. Be that I could pass beyond the eternal boundary Neverplane to call my home, but my soul, or at least much of it, was squandered. Now here I am.
What's it like, being a zombie?
No, it's honest work.
The stitching comes undone from Zachariah's mouth, and his lips peel back in what might be a smile.
I care little for it.
What led you to this state?
You don't remember, do you? Have you forgotten yourself again?
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Well, it's a hard path following your footsteps, Cutter. And many terrible things did I see. I took to drink and became half sodden with the stuff. Once, when I was raging drunk, I saw my body off to the dusties. Fate decided to kick me when I was down, and that's when I died. Shortly afterward.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Do you remember anything about me?
Well, you were a strange one. Always suspicious and watching for something. I reckon somebody like you had got enough enemies in your lifetimes. And there was no denying that anybody who messed with you ended up in the black chapters of the Dead Book.
Anything else? Any specifics?
You could be damnably ruthless too. Like when you made me sign that fiend contract. Or abandon that one mulin chit on Avernus. Now we had a Baylor of a time as well. None of us ever entertained the notion to jump ship on your watch, son.
Tell me about these other companions.
A motley crew we were. You, a half-dead man who couldn't get himself penned in the Dead Book if he tried. So ugly all the powers of death wouldn't take him. A wailing advocate's daughter, a Gith exile, a bobbing jackal-tongued skull, and a half-sodden blind archer like myself.
A floating skull?
Aye. That filthy talking skull was hankering for a bruising, so it was. Always smarting off, it was, and making fun of my condition.
Right. What about the Gith?
They're grim-looking, unfriendly, silent, like all their kind. I didn't trust them a lick. See, Cutter, them spindly ones care only about two things. Keeping out of slavery, and killing them squid-headed illithids. Everything else is just lower down the slope, and he didn't give a damn about any of us other than you.
Yeah. And the wailing advocate's daughter?
Yeah, that feisty chit who would be a soldier swore she'd follow you to Beator and back, and by the powers, she was so addled by the thought of you without her, she did just that.
cared little for me or the Gith, and bare little it was too. She was wild with heart poison for you, she was. Proof she was balmy. I don't understand what the women folks saw in your scarred monk. They set their blood a-boil. She was some rich scut from the clerk's ward, and you needed something from her. Now the only price was that she came with you.
What did I want from her?
One of the darks I never did bring to light, Cutter. You kept it all to yourself.
You were a blind archer.
That I was. All men see with more than their eyes, Cutter. Some of them better than others. I sense the hearts of my foes, your foes, and my arrows always stuck true. Those were sometimes.
I see. Do you know what happened to my journal?
That scrapbook that you'd stitched together out your own flesh and had more pages than I had days in my life. Well, good fortune indeed if you lost that ghoulish book. Always scribbling in it you were, and it smelled of fright. It was like you were afraid that at any moment someone would take it away. You wrote in it until your skin tore from your fingers, and I wondered if you were trying to spill out your brain box through your pen. Sometimes we would hold up for days while you wrote. And I hated that infernal book. It seemed to hold you by the heart, and not in a kind way. The last I saw of it, Cutter, it was in your possession. If you don't carry it, I don't know where on the plains it could be.
What else? Anything you could tell me would help.
You truly have forgotten, haven't you? All for nothing, I suppose. At your core, you looked at what happened to you like taking territory in a war. Everything was like a battle to you, and you were the most ruthless bastard I ever near met. No else mattered except for solving that goal. Poor Dionara, with her sobbing and pleading with you, didn't sway you none. The Gith warning you about your strategies, and poor Zachariah just trying to hold on when we hit the plains. Now you were tough, like you couldn't die. But we were only human-ish. And now I guess we're all in the dead book. Or in and out of it, so to speak.
Anything else?
You left something when you left us, Cutter. You left Darkon without a master, and the Skull without a friend. Me. You stabbed something so deep inside me it never came out when I was alive or dead. Caused my blood to run cold, it did. That thing, sitting like a lump of lead in my chest.
What was it?
I don't know. But it changed me, somehow. It changed my insides. I was already dying when you put it in me, so I wasn't too concerned about it at the time. It's buried pretty deep. But I have an idea where it is.
Wait, you mean an actual physical object?
Aye, son. You got a scalpel, take it back if you want.
Sure, I guess.
Oh, go on then. No use to me in this state. Open me up a half-hand's width below the sternum and feel around for it.
You grab a scalpel from one of the nearby shelves and make a deep incision in the zombie's abdomen.
Now a little more to the left. A little more. By the lady's gaze. Apologies, Cara. I thought them dustmen took all the organs out of us before setting us up, right? I'll give it another go. There you go. Now go a little to the right and back. A little more. I think that's it. Pull it out. That's it, all right. Huh. A lot bigger than I thought it'd be. Is that... What is that? It looks like a heart.
I think so, yes. Thanks, Zachariah. Any idea what it is?
Not a clue, son.
I'll figure it out. Thank you. Farewell, Zachariah.
Before you go, I need you to do me a slight favor, Cutter.
What is it?
I made some mistakes. Some damned bad ones, to be sure. And one of my biggest was signing that Dustman contract. If I hadn't been so sodden with Bub, I never would have done it. I regret it. And I was hoping you could set it aright. How? The way I reckon this body's gonna last a long time. And every day's too long to me. Could you maybe gut me again, Cutter? For old time's sake. The thought of spending another batch of years here in the mortuary with these white faces is a mighty cold one. Can you see fit to put me back in the dead book where I belong?
If that's your wish. With a quick plunge of the scalpel, Zachariah falls to the floor. There is a faint hiss from the body, and you see the chest heave once, then the corpse goes silent. In your hand, this blackened, fist-sized object looks more like a lump of burned charcoal than a living heart. Cracks run across its surface, and it looks like it might break in two at any moment. Handling it leaves strange, rust-colored streaks on your hands that won't come off. As far as you can tell, there is no sign that this was ever living tissue. How Zachariah survived with this thing beating in his chest is a mystery. Loading his body onto a cart, you find a rail leading to one of the mortuary crematoriums. Then, with a little force, you break the heartstone in two and lay the halves on his body, before finally pushing it into the flames. A rush of heat blasts through the chute, and then he is gone. Rest in peace, Zachariah. You spend a little time retreading your steps from those first few hours of your living memory. How much has changed since you awoke on the mortuary slab? You are less angry, perhaps. Less immediately at odds with the world around you. But have you changed? You've seen many things, and met many people. Found companionship and loss. Altered, even, the course of the lives of many others. So much of it, though, stained by the actions of your past. These unknown incarnations that follow you around like ghosts. Day 11. Hour. 6 after Annie-Peak. Here I am, in the mortuary, where my life began. And I'm struggling to keep a grip on all that I've found. Just this last day. Everything I've touched seems tainted by this torment. Dimmed by the shadow of my past. How can I be anything other than what these lives have set out before me? How can I not be the thing that has bound so many to such pain? Oneself, it seems, fled into darkness alone, and found only fear and death. Another would forge a path so singular, bent on destroying what he sought, dragging those who would follow, drowning them in what holds us to life. How do I not be them? do this alone. But I cannot bear to be what I am to those around me. Whatever I do now, it won't change that to them. I cannot undo my past because it is no more mine than it is theirs. I will never forgive what I have done. I will hold it in regret. For that is all that separates me from them. You leave the mortuary and see the pink light of Sigil dawn creep through the waning mist, and make your way to the gathering dust bar. Unsurprisingly, there are very few patrons at this first light. But you do see Emmerich. He is regarding you with his stony gaze. About that nothing should interfere with the true death philosophy. What if it's difficult for the person in question to die? The nature of your question is unclear, Initiate. I think I'm immortal. As you are about to speak, you feel a prickling sensation along the back of your skull. You have a feeling that mentioning your condition to Emmerich might be a bad thing to do. He is still staring at you, waiting for you to speak. I think I'm immortal. What prompts you to say such a thing, Initiate? I cannot seem to die. I can be wounded and recover quickly. Emmerich stares at you. Show me, Initiate. You make a small cut, and the wound heals almost immediately. Emmerich stares as it heals, is silent for a moment, then turns his gaze back to you. Something about your nature resists the true death. You are no longer a dustman. You must leave. If I must, I renounce the dustman. Farewell. Thank you for listening to Planescape Torment, the unofficial audio series, a RevocerGM production. To support the show and those involved, please consider subscribing to our Patreon or donating via our Ko-fi page. Links to both are in the description.